when you're doing your first casting call, you really need to put it out everywhere, as many places as possible. From, talent agencies, any connections that you have, any casting directors that put it out to everybody. Facebook, I don't care where you post it. Just find places to post it, any sort of message boards, anything that's looking for casting calls, put it out there. Okay, that's really, really important. And then be as honest as possible. If you're not paying actors, you have to tell them up front. Leave a description of what the movie's about, so, an actor's not just coming out and saying, I'm playing some role. I don't know what this movie's even about. You need to be as descriptive as possible. You have to break down what the situation is with everything. It's very important. This way, at least your actors can come out and they know what they're getting themselves into. And, being just upfront and forward with it, the people that come out, they're maybe there for the craft. They're aware that the project's unpaid and it is what it is, you may also be alienating yourself from certain talent that only does paid gigs and so on and so forth. But that's just the world you're going to have to live in, making an independent film, very low budget. Now, it doesn't hurt to reach out to certain people and say, listen, I think you really fit this role. I'd like you to come read for it. These are the situation with it. You'd be surprised how many of those people will come out and audition for your project because you reached out to them personally. And so they already have that feeling that, hey, I might get this role if I come out. And that is many times what I had to do with my feature film. I don't know a lot of kids. And so I reached out to their parents that I saw were trying to get their children in different casting roles. And I said, listen, it's an unpaid project that I'm making here. It's a feature film, and I didn't pay my actors on it. And I was just up front and said, well, it's going to be X amount of days. We're going to film. This person would have to film this many days. This is what the film's about, so on and so forth, and explained everything in as much detail as I possibly could. And if they were interested, they can come out. Of course, it would go on their reel. Of course, any success or awards that they would win is all them. And you just have to be as honest as possible and hope that the right talent will come out to your casting calls. That could really make or break your film early on. Now, when you have that talent come into your casting, you're going to have what's called sides, and those are different scenes that take place that you need people to read for. I would not make your most intense scenes the scenes they come in and audition for. It's just not realistic for someone to come through and really bring it on some scene that's two people crying about somebody dying. It's just too intense. Instead, you got to find a middle ground, some scene that shows enough of the character that you feel they could play the role, but not overly intense where they got to go all out, because it's just unrealistic. So when you picked out those scenes, just what you're really looking for is there's certain characteristics that they can pull off the character, even in the more intense scenes and the regular scenes as well, that you can see that actor is that character. That's what you really want to look for. At least that's what I did when I was casting my film. Again, just looking for if they fit the role that they need to fit. One last tip that I could give you is the less characters, the better. I try to limit it to 3 main characters. This will save you time. This will save you money. And this is all done through scripting. So keep that in mind. If you have a dozen plus characters, that's just so much more headache. You have to think more people to feed. There's more wardrobe. There's more, working with the actors. There's more makeup or whatever it is that you need to take care of. There's just going to be more of it. So the less actors you have to work with, at least for a film that's on a shoestring budget, that's the way you want to go. Less any way you can will definitely help you out in the long run. Locations is huge in an independent film, all films in general. The less locations you have, the better. It's not always less is more in feature films, but most of the case. But in locations, more than anything. That's because you have to break down and move your equipment and the rest of the cast and crew to different locations less and less. And you want to do this. It's very time consuming. It's a lot of work to break everything down and set everything up in each new location that you're going to be filming in. So you want to minimize the amount of locations you have. For my feature film, I wrote the majority of the film to take place in the woods. A fugitive was hiding in the woods, and so that's naturally why I wrote 90% of the film to take place in the woods. It's not ideal, but at the same time, it's just a simple way to cover any issues. If you've ever noticed any feature film that's similar on a shoestring budget, the majority of the film does take place in certain locations. And in fact, some of the biggest studios use this same model. They use 3 main actors and minimal locations to shoot a film on a low budget and turn that around. Netflix is notorious for this. If you go through and watch different films from Netflix, they do that same type of model. Few main characters, minimal locations. Now, when location scouting, you want to use what you have available to you. In my case, yes, a lot of the film took place in the woods, but those woods actually existed right behind my mother's home. So I was able to leave a lot of the equipment at her home and then pick it up and take it out to those woods where we filmed the rest of the scenes. So that made it much easier to film in that location. So any locations you have available to you. You will also need to rent certain locations on occasion. You'll have to be as honest with the rentals as possible. So let's say you do an Airbnb, you let them know, hey, I need to film in this location, and it's for a feature film. What can we negotiate? And many times you can negotiate a lot of different things. For example, let's say you wanted to film in a diner. Maybe you can negotiate some sort of marketing material that you can create for that diner. In return, they allow you access to film there at the diner. Or maybe you just say, hey, listen, I want to bring my cast and crew here. We'll eat here and have our lunch here, and we'll buy that. I'll bring X amount of actors and talent here if you just let me use your diner for 2 hours or whatever amount of time you need to record your scenes. So try to negotiate. Locations is very important, and there's going to be a lot of locations you don't have access to. For me, I had a scene where it took place in a convenience store. I went there, asked them if I could film there. They were completely fine with it. The one caveat was they weren't going to close the business or anything. So I had to kind of work around customers coming in and out of the store while shooting my scenes. It's not ideal, but I needed a convenience store. And so finding the right convenience store allowed me to film there. That was ideal. I also wrote the script knowing that I was going to have trouble finding a convenience store. So I only put that in there knowing that I could find a convenience store in a rural area, like the hill country area, where not a lot of people were going to be stopping by, and that one of those stores would allow me to film at their convenience store. So write stuff that you think or you can already get a hold of. That's very, very important when it comes to locations. No matter what, you will have to budget for locations. There's very unlikely that you're going to be able to make an entire feature film without having to rent or pay some sort of money to get a hold of a location that you need to film something in. This is one portion where you're going to have to spend some of your budget. You can actually try to get some actors that will be willing to work for the craft or because they love your story or because they love some of your previous work. Those actors may come out and work for you. But getting a certain location, it's very unlikely. You're going to have to spend money on materialistic things, things like props, wardrobe, and locations. I'll get to more of that in detail in some of these next ones. Scheduling is one of those things that will make or break your film. If you schedule your film shoot the right way, then you can save yourself a lot of time and a lot of money. And this has a lot to do with what you have access to and when. So schedule certain locations. If some stuff happens there during the day and at night, you'll have to film out of order. Film the day scenes and the night scenes while you have that location available to you. Write your script in a way that you'll know, okay, I can film these scenes and then the night scenes will film here, the day scenes will film here, and then break it apart throughout your scheduling, who's in what scenes and how you can use certain actors to come through, shoot their scenes in that location, and then leave and stay in that location and knock out all of your scenes at one time. You're also going to want to film your entire film a day after another. So like in my case, I filmed for 17 days straight. I took 2-week vacation The kids that were in my film, they were out of school during this time period. It was during the summer. And some of the actors were professors that were teaching acting at the time. And because of all of that, it allowed me to film during the summer period and knock out the film all at one time. So you're going to have to be real creative. There were other actors where their schedules were kind of difficult, and you had to talk to them and figure out when you could film their scenes and how you can film their scenes. Scheduling is a whole make or break situation for you. If you do a really good job of it, things will work out really well for you. But if not, it's really going to work against you. You got to really take your scheduling very, very seriously. I can't stress that enough.